Madam Chair, before I arrived, I understand that you said you do not encourage, or in fact, you discourage the showing of the video that has been going viral on YouTube. I have two versions of this video. One is the raw footage, and the other is the edited version. In the edited version, we do not show the face of the victim lying prostrate on the ground, because that, for me, is the height of gruesomeness, and I am also bothered by the fact that the family are entitled to a right of privacy. However, this video, whether edited or not, can be admissible as evidence in court. And sooner or later, it's only a matter of time. Once it is authenticated, it will be shown in court. May I therefore beg the Honorable Chair to reconsider her previous statement, not immediately, but after consultation with all the members of the three committees who are sponsoring this hearing.
If I may just answer that, my statement, Senator Miriam, is as members of this panel investigating it in the Senate, we need to be able to watch that video. And the clarification just lies on whether or not during the hearing we will present the video for the media to be able to cover it from the hearing. I would respectfully suggest that perhaps at the time that we present the video, we will ask our resource persons, those who would rather step out of the session hall, to please do so if they don't want to view the video. But for the media, to please point their cameras away while we are viewing it, unless, of course, the body will object to this. But there are certain members also of the resource group that should stay to be able to authenticate this. So if you feel that you cannot take it, you need to be able to raise your objections and reasons behind it. Madam Senator.
I hear and obey. I hold these two versions available for whenever it might be needed by the committee. I will now proceed. I have questions for General Napeñas. Could you kindly raise your hand, sir, since I cannot see very well? Thank you very much. Please take your seat. General Napeñas, as SAF, which I will call SAF in this hearing, unfortunately, you assume command responsibility for the fiasco. That is your misfortune. Why did you not coordinate with the military units on the ground so that you could have provided support to the SAF policemen when they were beleaguered?
The coordination with the military on the ground, ma'am, as planned during the mission planning, is the time on target that the assault force
yes, I know
are
about
only
your time on target defense. But why did you not earlier coordinate with them so that they could deliver the help when it was needed? As it was, the help arrived too late.
Yes,
that is the question.
Yes, Your Honor. The very reason is to avoid that the operation would be again compromised because of the previous operations that we did this kind of operations in coordination with the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The operations were aborted or compromised, Your Honor.
So the first operations, you cooperated with the AFP and the operations were aborted. So on that reasoning, you said, we will not coordinate with the AFP evermore. Is that correct? Is that going to be the permanent attitude of the PNP?
The coordination will be already time on target, Your Honor.
Well, you saw already that it failed. According to your logic, in the past, when the two coordinated, there was a failure. Now that you see that there is no coordination, it was a failure, you will still continue, you still intend to say that you will continue on that line of argument?
The reason
Nag-fail
for...
na nga eh. Nag-fail kayo noon. Sama-sama kayo, nag-fail kayo. O ngayon, kayo lang na pulis, saka ninyo i-time on target ang mga sundalo. Di nag-fail din. O, ano ngayon ang rason mo?
Your Honor, if I may qualify,
Yes, of course.
the operations in January 25 of April 25, 2014, it was not really a complete failure. It was aborted because of the withdrawal of the mechanized brigade units that are supposed to support us in the operation, Your Honor.
Tingnan natin maya-maya. Why did you fail to inform Acting PNP Chief Leonardo Espina about our planned exodus Why did you inform your Director General only by a text message sent by you and only after the operation was already underway? Ngayon lang ako nakarinig ng boss ko, hindi ko sasabihan kung anong nangyayari kung hindi sa kalagitnaan na malapit nang matapos. Yan, sagutin mo.
Yes, Your Honor. I informed Police Deputy Director General Espina when the troops are already on the ground on the basis that first the mission as early as April, then in November and in December, it's a continuing mission already, and that authority is delegated on me. The second, that the reason why it's because of the advice then of police.
That is
I'm
not
sorry.
acceptable. That is not acceptable. 4 years nyo hinabol-habol itong si Usman na ito at si Marwan. Kaya, for you to say, hindi na kailangan kausapin ko ang mga tao kasi nag-usap na kami. Noon pang 4 na taon nang lumipas. Ganon bang ginagawa nyo?
It's not
That is
4
likely
years.
to fail.
It's not 4 years, Your Honor.
Well,
The-
how many years were you planning chasing him around Mindanao? How many years were you doing that?
4 years, Your Honor, but I'm
Why not?
referring to the continuing operations which started in April 25, 2014, then on
Alright.
November 29, 2014, then on December 12 and 13 of 2014, Your Honor.
Why was there a time gap from the time SAF first appealed for help until help arrived at the time when it was already too late? May time gap eh. Hindi dumating kaagad ang Army.
Your Honor, I am sorry, I cannot answer the reason why there was a time gap on the help from the Army.
Let it remain. Why were the ceasefire mechanisms not applied to this operation? Nag-usap-usap ang maraming tao dito, ang daming media reports na meron tayong mga mekanismo, meron tayong mga procedures, one of them the ceasefire mechanism, o ngayon na meron na talagang a situation that called for the mechanism to be implemented, hindi na-implement. What is the answer?
There is a ceasefire mechanism that as far as high-value targets or high-priority targets, Your Honor, the 24 hours notice is not included in that respect, Your Honor.
What do you mean by that? If there's a surgical strike, you don't need 24 hours notice.
Yes, Your Honor, that is the exception if the target is high priority or high value
Ganito
targets,
na lang.
Your Honor.
When did the operation start? I submit to you, sir, that the timing was very bad. The Muslims are already awake before 5 o'clock because at 5 p.m. they start the first prayers for the day. Kaya kayo nahuli eh. Kasi gising na silang lahat. Tapos, dahil nagputukan na para makuha na nga yung Marwan, narinig ng ILF base commander at tumakbo na din sila doon. Kaya ang nangyari, as shown in the video that we shall soon be seeing, na-trap sila and right in a cornfield. In a cornfield, maisan. Tapos wala namang prior na strategizing on how to best enrich the security of that area and how best to use the trees around that area so that hindi matrap. As it was, they were like rats, drowned without any help, without any prospect of support. They fought heroically. These 44 are heroes of the country, but they ran out of bullets. They fought under the run out of bullets. Oh, eh bakit ang dami kong pagtatanong dito? Ang una na lang ay ganito. Sa intelligence na ito, bakit hindi kayo pumunta ng maaga pa para hindi pagising ang mga Muslim? Kasi alam yung alas 5 ng umaga ang first prayer nila, dapat pumunta ka mas maaga pa, alas 4 halimbawa mo. When did the operation start?
The operations started as early as January
No,
24,
in terms
Your
of
Honor.
time, that day.
Yeah. The time that
Anong
the assault force should reach the target according to plan, Your Honor, it's at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh, ba't hindi sila umabot doon? Ano na naman ngayon ang rason ninyo? Yun ang plano ninyo. Bakit hindi nagayari yon?
There were intervening factors that happened along the way,
Ah,
Your Honor.
That means you're a failure. You're incompetent. Because you cite intervening factors. When you make a plan, there should be no such factors. The plan should proceed very smoothly, if not perfectly. the currents were very strong, that the rain was not was worse than we thought. Ang daming rason doon. Eh kayo nagpaplano eh. Ang problema sa iyo, sir, is that you are assuming full responsibility for the operation. As I will show later, I doubt very much your statement that you were in full or sole control of that operation. That is why my questioning should not be taken as if I have prejudged you as guilty. I'm only showing na maraming pagkamali doon sa operation na yon, ang timing niya, ang execution niya. At papakita ko maya-maya na hindi nagaling sa iyo lahat ng detalye na yon. Kaya hindi ka dapat, you should not be blamed for the whole fiasco. Ngayon, ang staff may defensive position sa cornfield without any cover. Saan ang platforms mo? Saan ang army mo? Saan ang navy mo? Saan ang ground troops mo? That was my original question. Pagkatapos, they were trapped there dahil nagising ng BIF, ang MILF, doon sa kapakapatay kay Marwan, at nagising na rin ang BIFF. So the men literally walked into a trap. There was nowhere they could go because their escape routes were fully covered already by the gunfire of the enemy. That is why we call this a massacre, not an encounter. This is not an encounter. It was a massacre. Dahil pumunta sila dyan sa gitna nitong quadrangle na ito, dyan sila. Wala silang cover dito sa mga punong kahoy na ito. Wala silang cover from the air or from the sea, if there's any. Dyan lang sila. At kulang pa sila ng bala. Kaya, nang naubos ang bala nila, all that the MILF and the BIFF did was to go there and shoot them individually one by one. That is a violation, a direct and brutal violation of the Geneva Conventions of War. When the enemy is already in French or to combat, ibig sabihin he's no longer able to fight back. He should not be done any longer harm, but he should be taken as prisoner of war if necessary and if that is available. Hindi eh, inisa-isa sila eh. They were just sitting ducks there. Kaya sa video makikita natin, ipapakita natin, maski yung edited version, hindi pinapakita ang mukha ng tao dahil it's so gruesome. It will infest your nightmares. Na tamaan lang sa paa, pinuntahan niya, tapos binaril niya sa ulo twice. Wala siyang pakundangan. That's the people who are going to sign an agreement with the Bangsamoro Basic Law. Pagkatapos, maliban dyan, may dala pa siyang camera, may baril siya, may camera siya. Kayabang-yabang na tao kasi i-upload niya sa video sa YouTube. Dahil parang trophy niya yan, trophy of war niya yan. Ganon ang klaseng kalaban meron tayo. Alright, now, I will go directly to the next question. Reportedly, he went to the headquarters of the 6th Infantry Division and asked for help. But the people were caught by surprise. Nagulat sila. Itong klaseng operation itong may gulatan. Apparently, there were no quick reaction forces. Where were your quick reaction forces? There were no target reference points for delivery of indirect fire. No Air Force strike assets to take off and deliver supporting fires. No armored assets ready to move on pre-planned lanes to support the troops. No forward observers who could have advised the Fire Direction Center to adjust the fires. I understand that the quick reaction forces like Scout Ranger battalions are deployed out of Central Mindanao, which covers Surigao del Sur, Sulu, Basilan, and Bukidnon. O bakit walang itong mga ito? Commander, answer me. Why did your troops not avail of this help? Because it was not there on the spot.
The forces committed to support the operations have occupied the respective positions, Your Honor. We have a reaction force along the Maharlika Highway that provided support to the company that was pinned down inside. As to the target reference for artillery support, Your Honor, I'd like to inform you, Your Honor, that as early as 7:30 in the morning, Police Chief Superintendent Talino went himself together with our operations officer to the headquarters of the Mechanized Brigade. Then I forward him a text message indicating the grid coordinates where our SAP troops were engaged. If I may read, ma'am, the text message that I texted to Police Chief Superintendent Talino. That is about 6:52 in the morning. Na-engage SAP troops doon sa malapit ilog, 2 kilometers east of Barangay Tukalanipaw. Grid coordinate 67983-65714. Bandang gitna going to target. Again, at 7:53 in the morning, I texted again Police Chief Superintendent Talino, Noli, location of SAP troops, GC, grid coordinate 68006, 65717, and 68234, 65056. Nasa paligid ng first grid coordinate mga kalaban at tuloy pa rin heavy firefight. Baka pwede hingi artillery support.
O, nag-ingay na pala ng artillery eh.
Yes, Your Honor. The response of Police Chief Superintendent Talino with respect to my text message is this, Your Honor. At 7:58 in the morning.
Excuse me, please forgive me. I don't need those facts and figures. The fact is this was a failure. Nothing succeeds like success. Nothing fails like a failure. No matter what you tell me about who sent what messages, the thing is 44 Filipinos are dead. They will never live again. We'll never see them again. Who are the people who are responsible? Who are the people behind your back? You have assumed full command responsibility. You have acted as a gentleman. But I want to know who were the people pulling the strings behind you, since you are not the commander-in-chief of the PNP. Let that be a rhetorical question. Next question. What was the role of the U.S. government in this operation? At the very least, it was the government which announced financial rewards for the capture and death of the terrorists. How you respond to the rumors there was lack of coordination between the DND's operatives and the SAF because each group wanted the reward money for itself at the exclusion of other groups. Yan. 5 million pinag-awayan ng mga matay.
Your Honor,
4.
may I respectfully say that the reward will never go to any police organization, to the SAF, or to its members. It would be given to the informant, as it's always been the policy of the U.S. government not to give that one to the police operating
Sinong
officer.
informant nyo?
The intelligence aspect of the operations, Your Honor, is beyond my involvement. It is the intelligence group of the Philippine National Police who has that, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Napeñas. Please forgive my abrasive method, but I am shocked and traumatized by this event, just like millions of other Filipinos. Question for Secretary Voltaire Gasmin. I can see you right here. Secretary Gasmin, the social media is rife with gossip that there should be a coup d'etat. It is in effect an attack against President Aquino. But I have intelligence as of yesterday that leaders of certain alphabet soup acronyms who are familiar with the public had a recent meeting because they wanted to discuss how to stage a coup d'etat, who should be installed as president, and even their contributors were there. I am sure that the NDR is aware of this development. What steps are DND taking to avoid a coup d'etat? Because no matter how bitterly I criticize President Aquino, I am a lawyer and I still remain standing behind the rule of law. If he should leave his office, let him leave it at the proper time, but not by extra legal means, such as a coup d'etat, which is a crime under the penal code. All of those planners can be arrested immediately because like any other crime under the penal code, the crime of coup d'etat has 3 stages. Number 1, attempted. 2, frustrated. 3, consummated. So, arestuhin na sila dapat. And they're being financed by a man who the public already knows, who is a very rich man. So, what is the DND doing?
Your Honor, we indeed received those reports and we are still in the process of verifying and confirming all these reports. As far as coup d'etat is concerned, it will entail the support of the military, and we are very confident that the military will not be involved. in this coup d'etat, Your Honor.
You and I know who these people are. They've been engaging in this cottage industry for many years in our country. It's time they were put to a stop and they learned their lesson. I will now go to another subject matter, Mr. Secretary. The Department of National Defense includes the Anti-Terrorism Council created under the Human Security Act of 2007. It is headed by the Executive Secretary as chair, the Secretary of Justice as the vice chair, and includes the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, the Secretary of National Defense, the Secretary of the Interior and Local Government, the Secretary of Finance, and the National Security Advisor. The law specifically states that, quote, the Anti-Terrorism Council shall implement this act and assume the responsibility for the proper and effective implementation of the anti-terrorism policy of the country. And there are many other provisions on the same tenor. My question is very simple. In all the reports that we hear, both here in the Senate hearing and from the media and around us, there's never any mention of the Anti-Terrorism Council. Did it play any part at all in this operation we're talking about? And if not, why not? Sabi ng batas, siya nagtrabaho eh. Basta may anti-terrorism movement, dapat yan under the control and supervision immediately ng Anti-Terrorism Council. It's headed by the Executive Secretary and it is composed of various cabinet members. Eh bakit wala tayong naririnig tungkol sa Anti-Terrorism Council? Bakit ito lang si General Dapeñas ang naririnig natin?
Your Honor, can I refer the question to Undersecretary Ikarma?
O, Undersecretary Ikarma, nung sagot mo. Although I know that Anti-Terrorism Council is under the Department of National Defense. Ba't wala kayong kakibo-kibo?
With all due respect to Your Honor, I was about to answer, but the Anti-Terrorism Council is in charge of formulating...
I already explained why. Just answer me. Answer the question because I only have 5 minutes. I'm already gasping for breath.
If you will allow me, ma'am, please.
Oh.
Okay. The Anti-Terrorism Council does not involve itself in the operational aspect of anti-terrorism.
Ganon. Di po lang kayo
No, ma'am.
Salita lang kayo, di papel-papel lang kayo.
No, ma'am. We give the guidelines on how our forces will counter terror, ma'am. But we do not involve ourselves in the day-to-day tactical or operational details.
Well, not day-to-day, but still you must have had some participation because the law, for your information, says that the functions of the council are, and I selectively enumerate, formulate and adapt plans, programs, and countermeasures, etc. Coordinate all national efforts. Number 4, establish and maintain comprehensive database information. Bakit walang ka-support-support sila General Napeñas? Number 6, even grant monetary rewards. So we can fiddle about what these words mean, but the thing is that the Anti-Terrorism Council participation is nil, N-O-0, zip, in our investigation.
So,
I'm done with you. General Alan Purisima.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're placed on preventive suspension on December 19, 2014. Suspension is defined by the Law Dictionary as, quote, the temporary deprivation of a person's powers or privileges, especially public officers. Hindi lang powers ang nakat off or ang functions, pati pang privileges. Kaya kung tuusin, nung period of preventive suspension, you should not even have been allowed to live in the White House. And yet you continued to participate in preparation for a law enforcement activity. Therefore, sir, I humbly call to your attention. In jurisprudence, you overstepped your limits. You're on preventive suspension. For example, in the 2009 case of Aldovino versus Comelec, the Supreme Court held, and I quote, in all cases of preventive suspension, the suspended official is barred from performing the functions of his office. You performed the functions of your office, albeit in a surreptitious manner. And then you say that you were not violating your period, the terms of your preventive suspension. That is amphibole. You're using words to confuse the person listening to you. Nakialam ka eh. I also add that you were placed in preventive suspension by the Ombudsman under the Ombudsman Act, which provides that the Ombudsman may preventively suspend any officer if in the Ombudsman's judgment the evidence of guilt is strong. In sum, it appears that you have gone against the ruling of the Supreme Court and that the Ombudsman considers the evidence of guilt is strong in the plunder case filed against you. But I insist on the more important question, what made you violate the terms of your preventive suspension? Normally, kung preventive suspension ka, hindi ka pupunta sa office mo. You don't even call your colleagues. You just sit there quietly. And then when it's time for you to report back to office, then you go as commanded. Pero ikaw, masyado kang busy eh. Preventively suspended ka, masyado kang maraming kinakausap. At tungkol pa naman sa official and military operation. So what made you do that when you were under preventive suspension? And don't play words with me. Words are my livelihood.
Your Honor, when the law enforcement operation of PSAP was approved by me prior to my suspension, I have already delegated the command and control
We
and
know
supervision.
that. Answer the question. You're under preventive suspension and yet you were still dipping your finger in the pie. You were participating in none of your business at that time. You were preventively suspended, remember?
Your Honor, when I made remarks regarding what was it been taken by Police Director Napeñas, it was mere an advice, Your Honor.
So don't quibble with me. I told you I've memorized Black's Law Dictionary. I only advised. I did not order. Really? Buti sana kung wala akong doctorate o hindi ako nag-graduate sa UP. Mas malas natin, I did both.
Your Honor, my intention was
Bakit ka
advice.
salita ng salita? Ba't hindi ka na nahimik sa estate mo sa Nueva Ecija? Under preventive suspension kayo, nakikialam ka sa biro mo. 40 tao ang namatay. At kasali ka doon. Kung hindi ka siguro nakisali doon, baka buhay pa sila.
Your Honor,
Oh.
when I delegated the responsibility, I did not delegate the accountability.
So,
So-
aren't you ashamed of yourself? Saying I delegated the responsibility but did not delegate. I delegated the authority but did not delegate the responsibility or some such words. You should hear yourself talk.
The
Hindi
accountability.
pwede sa akin yan. I was an RTC judge, just to remind you. And I
Yes.
received several awards for my performance in the judiciary. So that does not play with me. It's not going to play in Peoria or in the Philippines. Oh, ito ang tagutin mo. During the period you have been serving out your preventive suspension, how many times did you talk with President Aquino about our planned exodus? Nung panahon na preventively suspended ka, ilang beses mo nakausap si Presidente Aquino tungkol sa impending operation?
Once, Your Honor.
Once. Tama na yun sa iyo. Minsan lang, alam mo na lahat. Next question. You are privy to the preparation for a planned exodus. Therefore, you would necessarily know who was the person in charge of the operation above the level of the staff commander. Hindi man pwedeng staff commander lang ang in charge. Meron person on top of him. He is not the commander-in-chief of the Philippines under the Constitution. Merong tao siya. Meron tayong staff commander dito. Meron siyang dapat the chief of the PNP. But you were preventively suspended. And then, your substitute, who was the acting chief of the PNP, was purposely kept out of the loop of information. So he was absolutely kept out together with the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. Kaya, sino ngayon ang nagre-report? Kanino siya ngayon nag-report?
Your
Who was
Honor,
the person?
Your Honor,
Above the level of the staff commander? Ikaw?
no, Your
Eh,
Honor,
mukhang ikaw eh.
I have already delegated, Your Honor,
Si President Aquino. Dalawa lang naman kayo eh.
No, Your Honor, I have
Okay,
already
sino ngayon ang,
delegated.
who was the person who was responsible above the level of the staff commander? Sino?
Your Honor,
Dahil eliminate na lahat eh.
when the delegation of authority, Your Honor, was given,
Oh.
it was already the call of the staff commander to perform the
Lahat na lang
operation.
ituro niyo staff commander. 44 men are dead and you're all pointing fingers to the staff commander. Common sense dictates. Sentido ko muna lang ho ito eh. Hindi naman siya ang pinakamataas eh. Sino mas mataas sa kanya? Ang chief ng PNP, ikaw, pero preventively suspended ka. Tapos yung kapalit mo na the acting chief, hindi ayaw ninyong sabihan. Wala siyang kaalam-alam. Kaya sino lang nakaalam? Si President Aquino at ikaw.
That is why,
Saka
Your,
sina Peñas.
that is why, Your Honor, I am held accountable of the operation. That's why I resigned, Your Honor.
Ay, sus, maniwala naman ako. Did President Aquino himself give the direct order for a planned exodus to begin? And don't give me the song and dance about, matagal na kasi ito, so I did not have to order them. They just acted on their own. So wala akong pakialam doon. Answer the question. Was it President Aquino who told you? You were preventively suspended. On your own, you meddled in something that was no longer none of your business.
No, Your Honor.
O sino how do you say in Tagalog? Sino nag-engganyo sa iyo? Makiasalam ka. Sino nag-udyok sa iyo?
It is the delegated authority, Your Honor, has
You're always
already...
returning to delegated authority. I do not accept it. Next question. In advising General Napeñas not to tell Secretary Rojas and General Espina about the start of a planned exodus, was there a problem of trust with these two officials? Wala ba kayong tiwala kay Rojas at kay Espina? Hindi kasi maintindihan eh. Ito ay PNP operation. Ang PNP under sa Secretary of Information and the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. Bakit ang pinaka-leader ninyo ayaw ninyong pagsabihan tungkol sa operation na lawfully fell under his jurisdiction? Bakit wala kayong tiwala sa kanya?
Meron po kaming tiwala, Your Honor, with the OIC of the OIC PNP and the Secretary of Interior and Local Government. However, Your Honor, in the design of the plan of PNP SAF, it stated that everybody will be informed time on target.
Ay, time on target, hindi naman sila sundalo, natatakbo sila doon. Time on target, yung ginagamit mo yan during the theater of war. When there's a war going on or a battle or some such armed clashes of violence.
Your Honor, may I
We're
explain...
talking about civilian eh.
Your Honor, may I explain time on target in the police
No,
parlance?
I understand what it is. Thank you. Next question for the MILF. Ms. Chairman, may I call on Chairman Iqbal?
Chairman.
Yes.
There you are. I can see you now. Mr. Iqbal.
Yes, I...
We have been acquainted at the hearing on the BBL on the issue of constitutional amendments. Now, here in this hearing, let me ask you, where my demeanor will be completely changed. Because even as a former RTC judge, I get upset and outraged when the occasion calls for it. Number one, can the MILF claim with a straight face that you in the MILF did not know that international terrorist Marwan and his local counterpart Usman were hiding and possibly operating within the MILF sphere of control? Ganon bang sinasabi ninyo? Hindi ninyo alam na doon pala si Marwan at si Usman?
Hindi ho namin alam na nandun si Basit
Alright.
Usman at saka nandun si Marwan.
I have my answer. Your answer, of course, does not bind me or anybody else. It will have to stand against the evidence. Number two, apparently, however, despite your disclaimer, these terrorists felt safe in MILF territory. Why? Even assuming for the sake of argument that the terrorists were in BIFF territory, why did the BIFF consent? Eh bakit doon sila? Kung hindi nakikialam ng MILF, bakit doon sila sa teritoryo ng MILF? Or if not the territory, at least adjacent territory that the MILF could easily control?
Actually, hindi ho yung community, it's a community. Karamihan doon po ay civilian na nakatira doon. So, in a civilian community, you cannot compartmentalize movement of people. And then, granting na nandun si Basit Usman, pero nagtatago.
Why did MILF and BIFF not coordinate with the government by sharing intelligence operation? Ba't hindi nyo binulong man lang doon sa mga peace panel advisors and operators?
Well, we
Kung
have...
nandyan si Usman at si Marwan sa amin. Kung talagang in good faith kayo na tayong gumawa ng Bangsamoro Basic Law.
Well, we have mechanism to do that. We have the ad hoc joint action group. Ang mandate po ng ad hoc joint action group po ay to interdict and isolate kidnap for ransom groups. and other criminal gangs, including Lost Command operating in Mindanao. So yun po ang mekanismo at malalim po ang ugnayan namin, yung adyag ng MILF, adyag ng gobyerno ng Pilipinas, but I cannot disclose the details in this forum. Maybe in an executive session I can do that.
I submit to you, sir, that this failure to convey vital information to your negotiation partners is an abject sign of bad faith. No wonder there are now doubts in social media, widespread in scope, about the sincerity of the MILF. Next question. Why did the MILF join the firefight and attack the SAF men? Oh.
Well, it was to the side of the MILF. It was really, I use the term missing counter because there was no intention on the part of the MILF really to fight the SAP. And in fairness to the SAP, I don't think they have that intention to fight the MILF. It was a missing counter. It was done
Is there
at the
such a word
darkest...
in the dictionary, misencounter?
That was the word used by many people,
No
including...
such word.
Missing counter po. Kasi may ceasefire po eh.
Encounter man or carnage man. We can choose our own vocabulary. Go ahead with your encounter term.
The encounter or missing counter, be permitted to use it, happened at the darkest part of the night, alas 4 po. Alas 4 ng umaga, madaling araw po yun. Madilim po, kaya hindi nagkakilala. Doon sa cornfield, nagkabanghan. According to the initial report received by us, that the distance between the sub-commandos and the MILF forces was about 5 or 6 meters apart.
Next question. How come the shooting lasted almost half a day, kalahating araw, until all but one of the trapped SAF men was killed? Bakit ganon katagal yun?
Alam po niyo, both sides, yung MILF at saka yung SAP, yung armas po nila malalakas eh. Kahit na po yung halimbawa yung boksingero po, mahirap din paghiwalayin yun. At saka yung
Sabihin mo ninyo yan sa pamilya ng 44 Pilipinong namatay.
Yun na nga ho, mahirap po. Sinasabi ko lang po ang katotohanan.
Next
na
question.
talaga mahirap paghiwalayin pag nandoon na in fairness to the
If I
CCS.
want your opinion, I'll ask for it or I'll give it to you. Next. There were rumors that the dead were robbed of all their possessions. If so, who committed the robbery?
Well,
Remember, I have a video.
we are conducting official investigation on the part of the MILF and then I cannot disclose
All right,
any.
if you're in good faith. Next question. Is MILF willing to surrender the rogue leaders who led what appeared to be a carnage and join the government in chasing down Usman and other terrorist suspects? Tutulong ho ba kayo sa gobyerno?
Well, from the beginning in 1997 up to today, we are bound by mechanisms. We have the ceasefire agreement,
All right.
we have the ADIAG, and we are bound by that mechanisms.
But this is answerable by yes or no. Are you willing to help our national government to chase after Usman and other terrorists?
Yes, we will help.
Now, finally, how do you expect the Bangsamoro Basic Law to pass the Senate with this perfidious tragedy? How do you think I feel as chair of the Committee on Constitutional Amendments, trying very hard to fit constitutional principles into the mold of the draft law when I see 44 Filipinos died in their boots?
Kaya nga po, hanapin po natin ang katotohanan. Gaya rin ang sinasabi sa Biblia po, truth hurts, but truth sets you free. Hanapin po natin ang katotohanan
There are
at ako
many,
po'y
many
naniniwala.
truths, Mr. Iqbal.
With due respect to your honor,
Question
there
from
is only
Secretary
one...
Laila de Lima.
Good morning,
Madam.
Your Honor.
In international law, is there a distinction between international armed conflict on the one hand and non-international armed conflict on the other hand? Since you mentioned this in your statement.
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
I ask this question basically for the education of the public.
The difference between international armed conflict and non-international armed conflict. Well, under the Geneva Convention, under the Rome Statute, it really contemplates international conflict and also non-international
Opo, ganito
conflict.
kasi yon. Meron tayong law of armed conflict pag naggera ang dalawang estado, dalawang states. Meron tayo law of non-international armed conflicts pag naggera ang estado or ang state with a rebel group within its midst. At saka, gumawa tayo ng ganitong distinction para hindi mabigyan ng legality, hindi ma-legitimize ang mga terorista at ang mga rebelde. That is the answer.
Yes.
There is non-international armed conflict in this situation, and we must therefore remember that the terrorists are not entitled in most cases, to the protections of the international instruments on the conduct of warfare, such as the Geneva Conventions and the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Second question, what challenge is posed by the development and application of humanitarian law to this non-international armed conflict? Bakit napakahirap i-apply ang ating international humanitarian law sa ating sariling bansa dito sa nangyari sa Sapano?
Ang nakikita ko po dyan is that marami ho kasing nuances yung tungkol sa pag-apply
The
ng
answer to that-
international humanitarian
Yes.
law, because first we have to determine what exactly is the status, Your Honor, of MILF. And
Yes.
I think there's divergence of opinion there. But the MILF has already stated that they remain to be a revolutionary organization. And therefore, as a revolutionary organization, what do we call them? How do we consider them? Is it an insurgent force? Is it belligerent? Although I'm not prepared to concede to that there is a status of belligerency.
There was a distinction between an insurgent and a belligerent. A belligerent had more rights under international law than an insurgent, but wala na ngayon ang belligerent
Yes,
in
yes, Your
international
Honor.
law vocabulary.
Under the traditional international law, there used to be a difference, but it has evolved into something else, into something that you don't make any distinction because of the human rights perspectives of all of this.
The challenge in this situation by humanitarian law is the following. The battle or the fight is asymmetrical. Hindi sila magkapantay. Kasi itong isa is a full state with all the requisites of a state. A population, a territory, and the capacity to deal with other nations on an equality basis. Whereas itong isa, pasundot-sundot lang siya para siyang guerrilla force. Kaya hindi mo naman pwede na ipantay ang pagtarato sa kanila, dalawa. Otherwise, we would be giving a premium to terrorists, rebels, and other disgruntled members of any civil society. Finally, what is the distinction between a situation of armed conflict and a situation of law enforcement?
With respect to the situation of law enforcement, definitely all the laws, all our penal laws and other laws would apply. In situation of armed conflict, then that is the time that we can consider principles under a humanitarian law. And it so happened that those principles have in fact been indicated in our domestic law because of our version of the IHL, and I'm referring to RA 9851. And RA 9851 definitely delves on situations of non-international armed conflict and involving certain groups. And if I may add, Your Honor, as I reviewed Republic Act 9851, it seems to apply to particular situations where there is a protracted armed struggle, armed conflict between the state authorities and particular groups. And the application, in fact, is broader in the sense that it refers to non-state actors in general. And when we define non-state actors under international law and even domestic law, this cover a wide range of groups and characters. So not just terrorist organizations, not just insurgent groups, belligerent groups, or even criminal organizations. So the applicability of the 9851 really is something that needs to be scrutinized further. Because as I said, there are nuances. We have to settle first the issue, what exactly is the status of MILF? And therefore, can we apply categorically the provisions of 9851?
Let us recall that the Philippine Constitution provides that international law is part of the law of the land. It is as if it were the principles of international law operate in our country. It is as if the Congress passed that principle because it becomes, in effect, similar to the standing of a law within our country. Thus, the question is, does international law cover non-international armed conflicts? The answer is self.
Yes, so
The
it
answer
is.
Yes,
because of
our
the constitutional
international humanitarian law statute and human rights law. For example, it is important for the MILF and the BIFF to be informed of this fact because they seem to be oblivious of it. The Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court includes non-international armed conflict in the concept of war crime. So I submit that what happened to the 44 Filipinos was a war crime committed by the MILF and the BIFF. And then, may I just go to this point? You said yesterday or 2 days ago that because the PNP is purely civilian in character, there's no such thing as a line of command because that is a military concept. Does that provision in the Constitution, and I have my Constitution here, I believe, defining the PNP as civilian in character, does that prevent the PNP from developing by analogy its own concepts like line of command? Is there a preventive effect on the language employed by the Constitution about the civilian character of the PNP? Does it prevent other terms from the military to be incorporated in the language of the PNP?
There is nothing in the Constitution
Nothing.
or any law
Thank
which
you.
prevents that, Your Honor.
Next, perhaps the last, Mrs. Chair, because I'm aware that you are about to treat me like we were in a cornfield.
No, Madam, they've given you much leeway. We know that your time is also limited being here. So we gave you more than 5 minutes, actually, ma'am.
General Katapang. General Katapang, the chief of the AFP. What did President Aquino do when he was informed early morning of that Sunday of the impending massacre of the staff? What did he do?
I don't know, Your Honor.
I thought you were in a huddle with him during that Sunday.
Your Honor, Madam Chair, we were there together in Zamboanga City to assess the situation because of the Giwan bombing, where a lot of lives were...
That is a diversionary tactic. I have absolutely no interest in Zamboanga or whatever happened there. You're addressing the question of why was the president in Zamboanga ready to receive the head of the terrorists? I'm not interested in that. My interest is, what did you do when he was informed of the impending massacre?
Your Honor, he was not informed about that operations.
He was not informed. All right. For General Napeñas, you said that under our planned exodus, the MILF was listed under enemy forces. You also said that the president was briefed until January 9. How detailed was the briefing given to President Aquino? Did the briefing include a listing of the friendly and hostile forces? What was the president's reaction? Sinabi mo ba na magiging kalaban ng SAF, ang MILF at ang BIFF, na si Presidente pa naman napaka-strong, passionate advocate of the Bangsamoro Basic Law? That's why I'm asking this question.
The very briefing that we provided to the President indicates did not indicate anymore on the enemy forces, but in the details of the concept of operations, Your Honor. However, we put the MILF under the enemy forces, knowing the actual and the realities in the ground, wherein when they see forces or our friendly forces, they go there, the reaction is more of the situation that tactical, the MILF would really react, and that's what we prepared for, Your Honor.
All right. Let me just go to the climax of this interpellation. General Purisima, did you tell the President, sir, to keep the operation a secret from Secretary Rojas, General Espina, and from the AFP? Were you the one who told him to do that?
I did not tell the President.
Was he the one who told you to do that?
No, Your Honor.
So nobody told you?
Nobody, no, Your Honor.
You just excluded nothing less than a cabinet member under whom the police operates.
Because it was stated in the design of the plan, Your Honor. The plan of the PNP SAF that everybody will be informed time on target, Your Honor.
Hindi mo inform ang Secretary of Interior and local government mo na the police which is under him is about to conduct a vital and possibly extremely risky operation? Ganon yon? Gusto mo maniwala kaming lahat dito? Nag-Amerikana pa man din lahat kami? Gusto mo maniwala kami ng ganyan?
Your Honor, that is the truth, Your Honor.
There are many truths. Count how many people there are around this table. That's how many truths there are. Of course, if you're a religious fanatic, you will emphasize that the truth is found only in your own sacred book, but that is not so. It is now the age of religious pluralism. Marami ng truths ngayon. Alright, ayaw mong sagutin. Tatatlo lang kayo eh. Sino nagsabi na huwag sabihan ang sekretary ng kabinete tungkol sa gagawin ng pulis na under sa kanya? Ano klase yon? Kaya nagbulilyaso siguro yon. We can never forgo the ifs and buts of this situation. If we were notified, maybe it would not have happened. That is my point, finally. Who else were present during the briefing in Malacanang aside from you, Napeñas, and the President?
Police Senior Superintendent Mendez, Your Honor.
Mendez.
As
All right.
mentioned by Police Director Napeñas in his previous statements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I thank my colleagues for accommodating me. As you know, I'm suffering from cancer pains, and I will now have to leave. Thank you very much for your compassion.